Welcome to Faithing Out Loud. I'm Pastor Tony Ruth Smith, and this is my husband, Pastor Wesley Smith.
Hello.
And we are delighted that you're here to be with us as we think about what it means to live our lives out loud in the world in a way that honors Christ. Let's join the conversation. We've been talking about Advent and St. Nicholas, which was pretty great. But in all seriousness, I think it is something that people ask us a lot, is how do we sort of find a good balance as we're seeking to be faithful people and we're trying to do our faith in an out loud way, in a meaningful out loud way. How do we at Christmas time balance all the secular things, because again, there's secular Christmas, with all the sacred things? Like, can you do both? Can you do both faithfully? You know, there are some Christians that say, you know, we just eschew all of the cultural stuff. We don't do any of that. We just are in our little sacred bubble. And then there are other people that are all the secular and then just pop in on Christmas Eve for just a second.
Right.
So, how do we find the right balance in this season to do both of those things? Is it possible to do both those things? And if we're going to try to do it, how do we do it in a way that is faithful and well done? What do you think?
I think it is possible. Eschew, that's a good word.
I like it when I come out with good words. That would be, how many letters is eschew?
6.
Oh, dang it, it couldn't be in the Wordle.
Could not be a Wordle.
Darn it.
But I think, I scroll on social media, like on Reels or TikTok or whatever, and you'll occasionally, and around the holidays, you'll see these people, Christians who do reject all that, saying, did you know that Christmas trees are demonic? It's or they're pagan and all that stuff, and I just don't think some of that with that secular stuff, it just ain't that deep. For most of us, we don't sit around thinking about the true meaning of the tree. It reminds us of being kids,
right?
And so much of that secular stuff, it's so heavily tinged with nostalgia.
Right.
Or these kind of images we see in movies and TV shows and media of cozy families and all this other stuff. So
right.
I think a lot of the secular stuff is just kind of surfacey, feel good. And, who am I to argue against that kind of joy?
Right.
I don't think it's a gateway for demonic. If it's anything, it's a gateway for anxiety and maybe a gateway for not actually understanding the deeper meaning of Christmas,
right?
But that's not sinister.
And all the things that are that sort of secular things, lots of them have their roots in a sacred thing.
Yes.
So some of it is kind of turning your thoughts. Like Christmas trees are a great one, right?
Yeah.
I love our Christmas tree. I've already said I like to sit in front of it with the lights on. And because I have an astigmatism, I like to sit in front of it with my glasses off, because all the lights kind of do that little
kind of
expanding thing. It's really quite lovely. But because I'm a good song person. Oh, Christmas tree. Mm-hmm. Oh, Christmas tree, you bear a joyful message that faith and hope shall ever bloom to bring us light in winter's gloom. O Tannenbaum, or Christmas tree, you bear a joyful message. Right. So the Christmas tree ours is full of memories, and it's a symbol of, people that aren't Christian have them. But as a Christian person, what does it mean for you to think about how are we shining the light of Christ in our home? Mm-hmm. How are we, everybody loves going by house. We love to we call it tacky tinsel tour. We like to go drive around and look at everybody's lights, right? Mm-hmm. How do the lights, everybody is shining their light. As Christian people, what a privilege to shine your light, with your neighbors, to share joy with other people. That's really quite lovely.
And it's certainly a good change of pace, especially in election years, from political signage.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
I'll take Christmas decorations every single time over the politics stuff.
Right.
But anyway, I think finding that balance, however, for Christians means I think what we talked about in an earlier episode about Advent is making the space, and sometimes you have to create the space for kind of a deeper reflection on Scripture. Mm-hmm. I think if you consider yourself a Christian and you're only kind of in-person experience in worship is on Christmas Eve, I would invite you this Advent to consider going to worship.
Right.
Leading up to Christmas Eve, it might give that experience on Christmas Eve might give it a little bit of a fuller context. So I think engaging in worship, and there are plenty of resources like Advent daily devotionals, that
Right.
kind of stuff that can.
Do an Advent wreath in your home.
Yes.
That's an easy thing to do. There are, one of the things that we told the kids or the families at our parent group that we lead on Sunday nights called QT, if you have a manger scene, create some fun with your kids about that, where like you don't put baby Jesus in until Christmas Day.
Right.
Like that and we did one year. We've done this a lot of ways, but like one year, I remember we put baby Jesus like in the furthest place we could find in the house from the manger. And every week we would move him a little closer. So we're trying to teach our children that he's coming.
Yep.
He's going to come to the manger. That's one way to do it. I absolutely think it's possible to celebrate Christmas and talk about Santa Claus and all that, and talk about Jesus. I think
Yes.
you could do both those things, because we did in our home. We absolutely did
Yep.
at our home. And like we had this little mailbox, and like our children would write letters to Santa's elves.
You say that in the past tense, as if we don't still do that.
That's true. They're 17
have.
and 19. We do have a mailbox. And I do continue to require
A letter.
a letter, at least one, into the mailbox in order to obtain candy.
Yes.
So anyway, that builds wonder and joy in children. Like it builds wonder and anticipation and generosity. I mean, the whole concept, everything we're doing around celebration of Christmas is about generosity, and people can be incredibly generous at Christmas time. So to think about, why am I giving gifts? I'm giving gifts because God has given us this incredible gift in giving us Jesus that I can't ever repay. So how do I pass on that love to other people? How do I share that love with someone else? And that doesn't have to be an expensive gift. It's just that's why we do gift giving.
Yeah.
It's everything that St. Nicholas is about giving gifts just to give it for the pure joy of giving it.
Yeah.
Right. And we get kind of hung up on the wrong things, but like that, the essence of that is really quite beautiful and not in any way contradictory to what we're trying to build in. It's just a matter of the way you talk about it and the way you in your heart are thinking about it.
And I there's part of me, thinking about this from a theological angle, and even some scripture shedding light on this. It says in the Psalms that the earth is the Lord and the fullness thereof.
Right.
And if God is the creator of all things, and Jesus is Lord over all creation, ultimately, the divide between secular and sacred is really kind of a false divide. It's a meaningless kind of divide.
Right.
If, there are things that are marked out for special purposes. For example, the word ancient Hebrew people uses holy. Things that are designed for purposes of worship or for use by God and God's people, but it's not like you can go to a place where God is not present.
Right.
It's all God's, and so I think the secular sacred divide, while it's kind of a functional thing, and I can certainly understand it, and I don't want to say it's like an illusion or whatever. But I think some of us as Christians we can get so judgmental and almost like so fearful about, I don't want exposure to anything secular. Our God is stronger than that.
That's right.
Joy. We do not have exclusive ownership of joy or peace or love.
Right.
And so I think there's a possibility that even through what we might call quote unquote secular Christmas things, that's an opportunity where people can maybe they want to understand a little more deeply, and it leads them to
Right.
Jesus.
Right.
So I don't want to. I think us completely discounting, and you've already mentioned we don't. We've done both. I think us as Christians, when we get a little bit, if we get a little bit holier than thou about that's not. I don't think that's helpful for our witness.
No, and I also think, again, it's back to what is your heart's intent, what is your focus, and what are you making a decision that you're doing, right? Like that is it's an orientation, right? It's how I'm turning my life, how I'm viewing these things that I'm doing as a Christian person. Like gift giving is an act of generosity. Angel tree, service, things like that. People giving to make sure that other people have what they need. That's not obligation. That's being mindful of other people in a way that we should be mindful all the time, right? Cards, Christmas cards. How many people, I wonder, on our Christmas card list do we have no contact with other than at Christmas time? What would it mean to send a card at another time? We did this thing, and I'm not going to claim that we did a good job at it, and we only did it maybe a couple of years. But after Christmas, because we put all our Christmas cards right on the wall, and so that we can see them, we then took them down and we put them in a basket on the table. And every week we would pull out two, and we would, as a family, talk about who that person was, because sometimes the kids didn't know them. It was a family or an old friend or something, and we would pray for them. And the idea that we never really followed through with, but wouldn't this be beautiful if we had done it? And maybe we should start doing it now. Is that week we would then send a card to that family or person to say, we were thinking about you today.
Yeah.
Like what a beautiful way to turn, something like Christmas cards into something that becomes a prayer exercise for a whole year, right? Yeah. It's a secular thing. It could have sacred purpose.
Right.
How are you praying for every person that sends you a Christmas card and praying for God's peace to be birthed in them, right? I also think about a challenge I've thrown out to people all the time. One of the things that can help you sort of as you're personally balancing those things, I always challenge the church. What would it mean for you to add up how much you spend on everybody else at Christmas time? And remember that Christmas is not your or somebody else's birthday, it's Jesus' birthday. And then however much you spend on Christmas, you tithe or give 10% of that amount to the work of the kingdom.
Yeah.
I think some people will be writing pretty big checks. I mean, now listen, I set a tight budget and we try to keep to it. But what would that mean? What would that look like for your family? How would that invite some sacred into this sort of very seemingly secular commercial enterprise?
And I think especially if you're listening to this and you're a parent, you have kids who are younger. I think as they grow up, having conversations with them about what's actually the meaning of Christmas. Now, this is my own particular kind of nitpick or something that makes me roll my eyes, and I'm probably getting more patient with it. But you'll see commercials or ads in the lead up to Christmas saying things like, "Family is the real meaning of Christmas," or "The joy of home is the real meaning of Christmas." Things like that, and a lot of times out loud, I'll just say, "No, it's not."
So what's the real meaning, Wes?
The real meaning of Christmas is God coming to us in Jesus Christ, what we call in theology the incarnation.
Right.
God becoming human in Jesus. That's the real meaning of Christmas. God, as in an old-fashioned way, condescending to us, coming down to us in
for us
Jesus
and for
Christ.
our salvation.
For us and for our salvation.
And that's how not to go back to the Nicene Creed, but for us and for our salvation.
Yep.
He was incarnate.
Yeah.
So that's why he came. That's what we're celebrating, that God came to deal with all the pain and the mess and the stuff that makes life hard. What a reason to celebrate.
Right. And
that God put on flesh so that there is nothing that we go through in this life, not one thing, that he hasn't gone through and he doesn't understand.
And we, the Christmas story that we use in Christmas plays and everything is found in the Gospel of Matthew and Luke, primarily in Luke. But John 1:14 is a Christmas story.
That's right.
When John says, "And the Word became flesh and lived among us." And that at the beginning of the Gospel of John, it says the Word was God and the Word was with God. And so the Word becomes flesh. That's Jesus, and lives with us. And so,
Ooh, I want to keep talking about that. So let's do it next week.
let's keep talking. Thank you for listening to Faithing Out Loud. Be sure to like and subscribe if your platform allows that. We'll see you next time.